I had loved Sophia Hart for 7 years, and tonight, I was finally ready to ask her to become my wife. I looked across the quiet restaurant where we had our first date and smiled nervously. Do you remember this place? Sophia glanced around. Of course I do. How could I forget? This was where you first told me you liked me. She gave a small smile. And you were so nervous that you dropped your fork. I was nervous because you were sitting across from me. For a moment, everything felt like it had 7 years ago. Then I reached into my pocket. Sophia, there's something I need to tell you. Her smile faded slightly. What is it? I placed a small ring box on the table and opened it. I know I'm not from your world. I know your family has everything, while I grew up counting every dollar. But I've spent 7 years loving you, and I've spent the last few years building something of my own. Sophia stared at the ring. I started a technology company, I said. It's still small, but it's mine. I wanted to surprise you after I knew it could stand on its own. She looked at me. You started a company? Yes. I wanted to prove that I could build a future with you. Before she could answer, Vanessa spoke from beside her. Sophia, this is exactly what I warned you about. I turned toward her. Vanessa, this is between Sophia and me. I know, she replied coldly. That's why I'm trying to make her understand what she's risking. Sophia lowered her eyes. I felt my confidence slipping away. What are you saying? Vanessa folded her arms. You're asking her to throw away her future for a man with a small company and no family name. That isn't fair. It's reality. I looked at Sophia. Do you believe her? Sophia stayed silent. Sophia, look at me. She finally raised her eyes. I love you, she whispered. My heart lifted. Then she continued. But I can't marry a man who is nothing. The words hit harder than anything Vanessa could have said. Nothing. Sophia looked away. You know what I mean? No, I said quietly. I really don't. I have responsibilities. My family expects me to marry someone who can stand beside them. And I can't. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. I stared at the ring between us. For 7 years, I had believed love could bridge every difference between us. Apparently, I had been wrong. I closed the box and pushed it toward her. You can keep it. Sophia shook her head. Please. I'm not going to beg you. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did. I stood from the table. Vanessa said nothing as I walked away. At the door, I stopped. Sophia's voice came softly behind me. Maybe one day you'll understand why I chose this. I looked back at her one final time. Maybe. Then I walked outside alone, carrying 7 years of love in my chest and a future I no longer recognized. I had lost Sophia that night, but I had not lost myself. I spent the next few days trying to understand why Sophia had rejected me. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard her saying, I can't marry a man who is nothing. I kept asking myself, what did I do wrong? Then Vanessa made everything worse. She called Sophia when I wasn't there. You need to know the truth, Vanessa said. His company didn't grow because of his talent. Sophia sounded confused. What are you talking about? He used your family's influence. Your father's connections opened doors for him. That isn't true. Ask him yourself. You'll see. When Sophia confronted me, I immediately noticed the change in her eyes. You've been using my family, she said. I stared at her. What? Your company. You used my family's influence to build it. Who told you that? That doesn't matter. It matters to me. She crossed her arms. You always made me feel like I owed you something. I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. I never asked you for money. You didn't have to. I never asked your father for favors. I never asked your family to help me. Then why did your company suddenly start succeeding? Because I worked for it. She shook her head. You expect me to believe everything happened without my family's connections? Yes, because that's exactly what happened. Her voice became colder. Maybe you just don't want to admit the truth. I swallowed my anger. Sophia, I loved you before I had a company. I built this because I wanted to become worthy of standing beside you. She looked away. But you never believed in me. She didn't answer. A few days later, I was invited to a Hart family gathering. I should have known better than to go. Richard Hart stood at the center of the room, surrounded by relatives and business partners. The moment he saw me, his expression hardened. "You came." "Yes, Mr. Hart." He looked me up and down. "You should know your place." The room became painfully quiet. I forced myself to stay calm. "My place? You're a young man with a small company. Don't confuse Sophia's affection with acceptance from this family." I looked at Sophia. She stood beside her father. "Say something," I whispered. Sophia lowered her eyes. That silence hurt more than Richard's insult. Richard continued, "My daughter deserves someone who can protect the Hart name." I finally understood. Sophia had chosen their approval over me. I looked at her one last time. "You didn't reject my proposal today." Her eyes slowly lifted. "You rejected the man who loved you before he had anything." Sophia's lips parted, but no words came. I waited for her to stop me. She didn't. So I walked toward the door. Vanessa watched me with a faint smile. I didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. Outside, I took a deep breath and looked at the Hart mansion behind me. For years, I had chased Sophia's love because I believed losing her meant losing everything. Now I understood something different. If loving her required me to beg for respect, then I had already lost enough. I wiped my eyes and walked away. I was heartbroken, but for the first time I wasn't going back. I would build my future without Sophia, without her family, and without asking anyone for permission. And if they ever saw what I became, they would know I had never needed their influence. From that night forward, every success would carry my name, earned through sacrifice, failure, patience, and courage to keep moving forward alone. After the breakup, I disappeared from Sophia's life completely. I stopped answering her calls. I stopped reading her messages. Every gift she had ever given me went back into boxes. Sophia's expensive watch, the leather jacket, the silver pen she bought me on my birthday. I returned everything. One night, my phone lit up again. Sophia, her message said, "Please talk to me." I stared at the screen for several seconds. Then I turned the phone face down. "I can't do this anymore," I whispered. The next morning, I left the city. I rented the cheapest apartment I could find and moved my company into a tiny office with 2 desks and an old computer. For the first few months, nothing went right. Clients rejected me. Investors ignored me. Bills kept arriving. Then one evening, an older businessman walked into my office. "You're the owner?" he asked. "Yes." He looked around. "This place doesn't look like a successful company." I smiled bitterly. "It isn't." "Then why are you still here?" "Because I'm not finished." He studied me for a moment. "My name is Daniel." "I know who you are." "Good. Then you know I don't waste time." He pulled a chair closer. "Tell me why you refuse to quit." I looked at my laptop. "Because someone once made me believe I wasn't enough." Daniel nodded slowly. "And now you want to prove them wrong?" "For a while I did. And now?" I took a breath. "Now I want to prove myself right." Daniel smiled. "Good answer." From that day, Daniel became my mentor. He taught me how to negotiate, how to manage employees, and how to survive failure without letting it destroy me. One night, after another terrible business meeting, I slammed my laptop shut. "I hate this." Daniel looked at me calmly. "You hate losing." "I hate feeling powerless." He leaned back. "Pain can either make you bitter or make you dangerous. Choose carefully." I stayed silent. "What should I choose?" I asked. "Growth." That word stayed with me. I chose growth. But growth wasn't easy. There were nights when I slept beside my laptop because I couldn't afford proper rest. Sometimes I woke up with my neck hurting and my screen still glowing. I would whisper, "Just one more day." Meanwhile, Sophia began noticing my absence. She asked Vanessa, "Have you heard from him?" Vanessa shrugged. "Maybe he found another woman." Sophia forced a smile. "I don't care." "Then why did you ask?" "I was just curious." But she wasn't. I knew that much. Months became years. My company slowly grew. One client became 5. 5 became 20. My tiny office became an entire floor. I hired people. I bought better equipment. I learned how to speak confidently in rooms where everyone once looked down on me. Daniel watched the transformation. "You're not the same man who walked into my office," he told me. "I hope not. You finally believe in yourself." I had to. Years passed. My name began appearing in business magazines. Investors started calling me instead of ignoring me. I became financially independent, confident, successful. But there was one thing I never changed. Inside my desk drawer, beneath important documents, I kept an old photograph. Sophia and me. 7 years of memories frozen in one frame. Sometimes I opened the drawer and stared at it. I never called her. I never went back. But I couldn't throw the photograph away. Daniel once caught me looking at it. "You still love her?" I closed the drawer. "I don't know." He smiled. "Then don't lie to yourself." I looked at the drawer again. "I don't want her back." "Maybe." I nodded. "I just haven't forgotten who I was when I loved her." Daniel said nothing. And somehow, that silence told me everything. 3 years passed before I realized how far I had come. My company had become one of the fastest-growing firms in the city. People who once ignored my calls now waited outside my office. I was no longer the poor man Sophia had rejected. But success didn't erase what happened. One evening, I sat alone in my office, staring through the glass walls at the city. Claire walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee. "You're working late again." "I always work late." She placed a cup beside me. "You know successful people are allowed to sleep." "I'll consider it." She smiled. "You're still thinking about her, aren't you?" I looked at her. "How did you know?" "Because you become quiet whenever someone mentions love." I leaned back. "I'm not waiting for Sophia." "I didn't say you were." "I don't want her back." Claire nodded. "I believe you." I looked down at my coffee. "Then why does it still hurt?" She sat across from me. "Because success doesn't erase pain." I gave a bitter laugh. "That's supposed to make me feel better?" "No. It's supposed to make you stop blaming yourself." I stayed silent. Claire continued. "You don't need to prove your worth to the woman who couldn't see it." Her words stayed with me. Meanwhile, Sophia's world was changing. I didn't know it at first. Her father's company had suffered enormous losses after several bad investments. The family that once seemed untouchable was suddenly struggling. Then Vanessa began disappearing. Sophia called her one afternoon. "Vanessa, why haven't you visited lately?" "I've been busy." "You were never too busy before." "Things have changed." Sophia frowned. "What does that mean?" Vanessa sighed. "You don't have the same lifestyle anymore, Sophia." The words hurt. "So that's why you're leaving?" "I'm not leaving. I'm just focusing on myself." Sophia understood. Vanessa had loved the Hart family's wealth more than their friendship. For the first time, Sophia was alone. Then she searched my name online. She stared at the results. My company had expanded nationally. My photograph appeared beside interviews about entrepreneurship and technology. Sophia whispered, "Is this really him?" She opened one interview. The interviewer asked me, "Was there ever a moment that changed your life?" I thought for a moment before answering. "I lost someone important because I wasn't rich enough for her." Sophia froze. Her eyes filled with tears. "That was me." She replayed the sentence. Again and again. She remembered the restaurant, the ring, my face when she rejected me. She whispered, "You really loved me." For years, she had told herself that leaving me was the right decision. Now, for the first time, she questioned everything. She called Vanessa. "Did you know he built all this himself?" Vanessa hesitated. "I heard he became successful." "No." "Did you know he never used my family's influence?" Silence. "Vanessa." "I don't know." Sophia closed her eyes. "You told me he used us. I was trying to protect you." "From what?" "From making a mistake." Sophia's voice trembled. "You made me believe loving him was the mistake." Vanessa said nothing. Sophia ended the call. That night, she sat alone in her room, staring at an old photograph of us. She remembered something I had once told her. "I don't need your family's money. I just need you to believe in me." Back then, she hadn't. Now she finally did. But believing in me after losing me couldn't change the past. For the first time, regret replaced pride. And somewhere across the city, I continued building my future, unaware that Sophia Hart had finally begun to understand what she had thrown away. 3 years after leaving Sophia, I received a message that I never expected to see. "Can we talk?" I stared at those 4 words for almost a minute. Claire noticed my expression. "Who is it?" "Sophia." Claire went quiet. What are you going to do? I don't know. You don't have to answer. I looked at the message again. I'll meet her. Why? Closure. We agreed to meet at the same restaurant where she had rejected my proposal. When I arrived, Sophia was already sitting at our old table. She looked different. The confidence I remembered was gone. In its place was something I had never seen in her before. Guilt. She stood when she saw me. Thank you for coming. I sat across from her. You said you wanted to talk. She took a shaky breath. I was wrong. I looked at her. You were honest. She lowered her eyes. That isn't forgiveness. No, I said quietly. You were honest. That's worse. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't know how much I would regret it. You didn't regret it for 3 years. I did. Then why didn't you contact me? Because I was ashamed. I leaned back. What changed? She swallowed. Vanessa influenced me. She convinced me your company existed because of my family's connections. I stared at her. And your father? My father pressured me. To leave me? To choose someone from our social class. I shook my head. You could have fought him. I know. You could have trusted me. I know. Then why didn't you? Sophia's tears finally fell. Because I was afraid of losing everything. I looked down at the table. She whispered, I was afraid of losing my family, my position, my future. I answered quietly, and I was afraid of losing you. She looked at me. We were both afraid. I paused. The difference is that I chose you. Sophia covered her face. I know. No, Sophia. You don't. She looked up. I know I hurt you. You didn't just hurt me. You made me question everything I believed about myself. I never wanted that. But you did it. I was weak. You were afraid. She nodded. Yes. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Sophia asked the question I had secretly feared. Do you still love me? My heart tightened. I looked into her eyes. I wanted to answer immediately. Yes. Or no. But neither word came. Sophia waited. Why can't you answer? Because I don't know. She wiped her tears. You don't love me anymore. I didn't say that. But you can't say you do. I looked away. I spent years teaching myself how to live without you. And did it work? I thought about my company, my success, my empty apartment, the photograph inside my desk. I survived. She gave a painful smile. That isn't the same as living. I didn't respond. Sophia reached across the table, but stopped before touching my hand. I never stopped loving you. Her words stayed between us. I stood. She looked up at me. That's all you have to say? I don't know what else to say. Will I ever get another chance? I looked at her for a long moment. I don't know. She nodded slowly. I walked toward the door. Behind me, Sophia whispered, I wish I could change the past. I stopped. So do I. Then I walked outside. For the first time in years, I realized something uncomfortable. I wasn't angry anymore, but I wasn't healed either. And as I walked away from that restaurant, I couldn't stop wondering whether my feelings for Sophia had truly disappeared or whether I had simply buried them too deeply to recognize. Just when I thought the past was finally behind me, Claire walked into my office looking worried. What happened? She closed the door. I found something about Vanessa. My stomach tightened. What kind of something? She didn't just give Sophia bad advice. Claire placed several documents on my desk. She deliberately sabotaged your relationship. I stared at the papers. Why? Because she wanted Sophia dependent on her. I picked up one document. What am I looking at? Messages between Vanessa and people connected to the Hart family. She spread rumors about your company. I read the messages slowly. She told them I was dishonest? Yes. She made them believe I was using Sophia? Yes. I sat back. For years, I blamed myself for losing Sophia. Now I realize someone had pushed us apart. I need to talk to her. Claire looked worried. Are you sure? I don't want revenge. Then what do you want? The truth. I found Vanessa that evening. She smiled. I wondered when you'd come. You knew I would. Eventually, I placed the documents on the table. You lied to Sophia. Vanessa laughed. You think Sophia would have stayed with you if I hadn't interfered? I looked at her. I don't need to know anymore. Her smile disappeared. You really think you're better than me now? No. Then why are you here? You didn't destroy my life. You exposed the people I was surrounded by. She looked away. You have no idea what I wanted. I know enough. I wanted Sophia to need me. Why? Vanessa's expression hardened. Because Sophia had everything. I said nothing. She had money, a powerful family, beauty, a future. And then she had you. Her voice cracked. You loved her without wanting anything from her. That made you jealous? Yes. She finally admitted it. I hated watching someone like you receive the one thing I could never have. That doesn't excuse what you did. I know. Meanwhile, Sophia had discovered the truth herself. I wasn't there when she confronted Vanessa, but Sophia later told me exactly what happened. How could you do this to me? Sophia had asked. Vanessa cried. I was afraid you'd leave me. You lied to my family. I wanted you to need me. You destroyed my relationship. I was jealous. Sophia shook her head. You weren't my friend. I was. No. A friend doesn't make someone choose between love and fear. Vanessa had no answer. Then Richard discovered another part of the truth. Several business decisions he had made years earlier had been based on information Vanessa secretly provided. When he confronted her, she admitted she had exaggerated my company's problems and convinced him I was dishonest. Richard finally understood his judgment had been manipulated. When Sophia told me everything, I listened quietly. So you finally know, I said. Yes. You trusted her more than you trusted me. Sophia lowered her head. That was my biggest mistake. I looked at her. You can't change it. I know. But you can learn from it. She nodded. I already have. I walked back into my office that night and looked out over the city. The people who once controlled my life were trapped by the consequences of their own choices. Vanessa had lost Sophia. Richard had lost control of decisions he thought were his. And Sophia had lost the man who had loved her before he had anything. As for me, I had finally stopped asking why they had hurt me. I understood now, and understanding felt close to freedom. Sophia came to see me again a week later. This time, she didn't bring flowers. She didn't bring excuses either. She simply stood outside my office and asked, "Can I talk to you?" I opened the door. Yes. We sat across from each other. Sophia took a deep breath. I didn't come here to ask you to take me back. I looked at her carefully. Then why are you here? To ask for forgiveness. I remained silent. She continued, I've spent years blaming Vanessa. Then I blamed my father. I even blamed my family. And now, she looked directly at me. Now I know the truth. What truth? I made the choice. Her voice trembled. I chose to believe them. I chose to walk away. I have to live with it. Her honesty affected me more than her tears ever had. You don't have to punish yourself forever, I said. I know. Then what do you want from me? Forgiveness. I looked down. I can forgive you. She closed her eyes. Thank you. But forgiveness doesn't mean everything becomes the way it was. I understand. A few days later, Richard Hart came to my office. I stood when he entered. Mr. Hart. He looked uncomfortable. I owe you an apology. I said nothing. For what I said to you years ago. You told me to know my place. I was wrong. You humiliated me in front of your family. I know. He placed a folder on my desk. I want to make amends. I'd like to invest in your company. I pushed the folder back. I don't want your money. Richard looked surprised. Then what do you want? I met his eyes. I wanted your respect. He was silent for several seconds. You have it. Those 3 words meant more than his investment ever could. After he left, Claire walked into my office. She looked at the folder. You rejected his money? Yes. Why? Because I spent years building something without it. She smiled. You're different now. I had to become different. Claire sat down. Then she asked the question she had avoided for months. Do you still love Sophia? I didn't answer immediately. Finally, I said, yes. Claire nodded. I thought so. But that doesn't mean I should go back. Why not? Because love isn't enough. She looked at me. What else do you need? Trust. I leaned back. I trusted Sophia completely. She chose to believe someone else over me. And you can't forget that. No. Claire smiled gently. But you can forgive it. I already have. Then what are you afraid of? I looked toward the window, loving her again and discovering that I still don't feel safe. Claire didn't respond. She didn't need to. That night, I found Sophia waiting outside my office. Did you talk to my father? Yes. He apologized? Yes. She smiled faintly. I'm glad. We stood silently for a moment. Then she asked, do you hate me? No. Are you angry? Not anymore. Do you still love me? I looked at her. Yes. Her eyes filled with tears. But you still won't come back. I don't know if I can. She nodded slowly. I understand. We stood there beneath the quiet city lights. Then Sophia asked something I wasn't prepared for. If you could go back to that night, would you propose to me again? I stared at her. The restaurant. The ring. Her rejection. 7 years of love. Everything came rushing back. I opened my mouth, but no answer came. Sophia waited. And for the first time, I realized that my future wasn't about proving who had been right. It was about deciding what kind of life I wanted to live. Sophia and I spent one final day together visiting the places that defined us. We started at the park where we first met. You were sitting under that tree, Sophia said. I remember. You looked miserable. I was waiting for a job interview, and I thought you were waiting for someone. I was. I just didn't know it was you. She smiled sadly. We walked slowly along the path. I used to come here whenever I missed you, she admitted. You never told me. I was afraid. Afraid of what? That I'd want you too much. From the park, we went to the cafe where we used to study. I looked at our old table. You always stole my notes. I borrowed them. You copied everything. You were better at taking notes. I laughed quietly. For a moment, it felt like we were young again. Then Sophia became serious. I spent years imagining our marriage. I looked at her. What did you imagine? A small house. Maybe 2 children. You working late while I complained about it. That sounds familiar. I imagined growing old with you. Her voice broke. But I lost you the moment I chose comfort over courage. I lowered my eyes. I forgive you. She looked at me hopefully. Really? Yes. Her expression softened. But forgiveness doesn't mean returning to the past. Her hope disappeared. I know. We left the cafe and walked toward the street where she had once made me a promise. She stopped beneath an old street lamp. This is where I told you I'd never leave you. And yet you did. I know. She looked down. I hate that version of myself. You don't have to hate her. Why not? Because she made mistakes. You learned from them. Sophia wiped her eyes. Is Claire the reason you can't take me back? I answered immediately. No. Then what is it? I looked directly at her. The reason is me. She stared at me. I finally learned how to live without you. Her eyes filled with tears. You really don't need me anymore. I don't need anyone to complete me. She nodded. I spent so long thinking I had to compete with Claire. You don't. I understand now. She reached into her bag and pulled out the photograph. I recognized it immediately. It was the photograph I had once given her. I kept it all these years, she whispered. She placed it in my hand. Why are you giving it back? Because it belongs to you. I turned it over. There was writing on the back. I was loved by a good man, and I was too afraid to deserve him. I read it twice. Then I looked at Sophia. You don't have to punish yourself. I know. Then what happens now? She smiled through her tears. You move forward. And you. I'll learn how. We stood there silently. I wanted to hug her. Part of me wanted to pretend nothing changed. But I knew better. The man who once needed Sophia's love to feel worthy was gone. I could remember him without becoming him. Sophia stepped closer. Goodbye. Goodbye, Sophia. She walked away. I watched until she disappeared around the corner. For years, I believed moving forward meant forgetting her. Now I understood something different. I could honor what we had. I could forgive her without reopening the wound. And I could love the woman she had been while choosing the life I had become strong enough to build. I placed the photograph inside my wallet. Then I walked home alone, peaceful that night. Months later, my company reached its biggest milestone yet. I stood backstage, staring at the award in my hands. Claire walked toward me. You actually did it. I smiled. We did it. She laughed. Don't get emotional before the ceremony. I wasn't planning to. You're lying. I looked at the stage. I never imagined I'd stand here. Claire nodded. Neither did the man you used to be. My name was announced. I walked onto the stage as hundreds of people applauded. Then I saw her. Sophia. She stood quietly near the back. She wasn't smiling widely. She wasn't trying to get my attention. She simply watched. I accepted the award and stepped toward the microphone. I took a breath. 3 years ago, I had almost nothing. The room became silent. I was told that I wasn't enough because I didn't have money, influence, or the right family name. I paused, but I learned something important. I looked at the award. Sometimes losing the person you love becomes the reason you finally discover yourself. The audience applauded. I looked toward Sophia. She lowered her eyes. After the ceremony, I walked outside. Sophia was waiting near the entrance. She didn't move toward me. She simply smiled. Congratulations. Thank you. I watched your speech. I saw you. She laughed softly. I didn't want to interrupt. You didn't. She looked at the award. You should be proud. I am. She took a breath. I'm proud of you. I smiled. Thank you. Tears appeared in her eyes. I used to think I rejected you because you weren't enough. I remained silent. Now I understand something. What? I rejected the future I wanted because I was too afraid to fight for it. I looked at her. You can't change what happened. I know. And you don't need to keep apologizing. I know that too. She wiped her tears. I finally understand that your success isn't something I get to share just because I once loved you. I nodded. You built it yourself. Yes. And I'm glad. We stood there for a moment. Then Sophia smiled. Goodbye. I felt something tighten in my chest. Goodbye, Sophia. She walked away. I watched her disappear into the crowd. Claire found me a few minutes later. Are you sad? I looked toward the street. Yes. She nodded. But you're okay? I took a deep breath. Yes. What's different? Sadness doesn't control me anymore. Claire smiled. You finally let go. I think so. We returned to my office that night. I opened the drawer of my desk. The old photograph was still there. I picked it up one last time. For years, I had kept it because I was afraid that throwing it away meant betraying everything we had shared. Now I understood. I didn't need the photograph to remember. I didn't need the pain to prove that the love was real. I placed it inside a small box and closed the lid. Claire watched silently. You sure? Yes. Do you want to keep it? I'll keep it. She smiled. But you don't need to look at it anymore. I shook my head. No. I put the box away. For the first time, I felt completely free. Sophia's regret was her lesson. It wasn't my responsibility. Her choices belonged to her. Mine belonged to me. I had spent years believing my story ended when Sophia rejected me. I was wrong. That rejection had only been the beginning. I lost the woman I once believed I couldn't live without. In return, I found myself. And for the first time, I wasn't looking backward anymore. Years after Sophia rejected me, I sometimes think about the man who stood in that restaurant holding a ring. I remember how nervous I was, how much I believed that losing Sophia meant losing everything. Now I know how wrong I was. One evening, Claire and I sat on the balcony of my office. You still think about her? Claire asked. Sometimes. Do you regret not marrying her? I smiled. No. Do you hate her? I shook my head. No. I never learned how to hate her. Claire looked at me. Then what do you feel? Gratitude. She raised an eyebrow. Gratitude? Yes. For breaking your heart, for forcing me to discover who I was without her. Claire smiled. That sounds like something Daniel would say. He taught me well. Sophia eventually built a life of her own. She moved away from her father's shadow and stopped allowing Vanessa's influence to control her decisions. Richard and I developed something I never expected. Respect. One afternoon, he visited my office. You've built something remarkable, he said. Thank you. I should have recognized your potential years ago. You weren't ready to. He nodded. I wasn't. We shook hands. There was no bitterness between us anymore. Vanessa disappeared from our lives after facing the consequences of her actions. I never celebrated her downfall. I simply stopped caring about it. Some people don't need revenge. They only need to live with the results of their choices. Claire remained one of my closest friends. One evening, she asked me, "Do you think we'll ever become more than friends?" I smiled. "Maybe. That's all. I don't want to rush something good." She nodded. "That's probably the healthiest answer you've ever given." I laughed. "I've learned a few things." "What things?" I looked toward the city. "That love shouldn't be built on fear." She waited. "Or status. Or desperation." Claire smiled. "And what should it be built on?" "Trust." "Anything else?" "Choice." She nodded. "Good answer." I thought about Sophia. I never married her. I never hated her. And I never wished that I had never loved her. My final memory of Sophia wasn't the woman who rejected me. It was the girl who once sat across from me and laughed over a cup of coffee. The girl who loved me before she became afraid of what everyone else would think. That memory was enough. One night, I opened my desk drawer. The old photograph was still inside its box. I didn't take it out. I simply looked at the box and smiled. The past didn't hurt anymore. It had become a lesson. I remembered the man in that restaurant. He thought his entire future depended on one woman's answer. He thought money and status determined whether he deserved love. He thought rejection meant failure. But I knew better now. Losing Sophia didn't destroy me. It forced me to build myself. I became stronger. I became independent. I learned to respect myself. And most importantly, I learned that loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself for them. Sometimes love ends. Sometimes people make choices they regret. Sometimes forgiveness is possible without reconciliation. And sometimes the greatest victory isn't getting the person who rejected you to come back. It's becoming someone who no longer needs them to return. I closed my office window and turned off the lights. The city continued shining beneath me. I smiled. Sophia had once been the center of my world. Now she was simply a chapter in my story. A meaningful chapter. A painful chapter. But a finished one. I had spent years believing I lost the life I wanted. In truth, I had only lost the life I imagined. What I built afterward was mine. And as I walked away from the window, I carried one final thought with me. She spent years regretting the man she lost. I spent those same years becoming a man I could finally be proud of.